Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
A lot to get to, and the thing that I probably want to talk about least is the Saints losing 25-10 to the Raiders yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and start with that just to get it out of the way. And there's not really much I can say about the game. It's just kind of what was reaffirmed after the loss. If you want some thoughts on the game, I have a few here. It started kind of weird because we had talked about the Raiders not being able to finish drives. On Friday, when we gave a prediction, they didn't be able to finish drives. You could really see it in their point differential between them and their opponents. And the Raiders proceeded to just take the ball and march it right down the field on the opening drive of the ball game, dinking and dunking, converting every third down that they could. It was quite demoralizing if you were the New Orleans Saints. There's a touchdown that looks like it's a touchdown, but it's ultimately called back because the runner's knee was down, at the half-yard line or whatnot. And then the Saints get the goal line stand, and it was awesome. It was like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what you thought. And it's what you've seen from the Saints a little bit in general this season is yards, but they squeezed tightly in the red zone, and they did it at that moment. Cam Jordan had a tackle for a loss. He had a sack on that goal line stand. It was awesome. And they hold him to a field goal. They end up taking a 7-3 lead, hold him to another field goal at 7-6. But all the while, you could see little chinks in the armor on the Saints defense that ultimately just created a bigger problem. And it's not chinks in the armor or cracks in the armor, if you will, that we hadn't seen before with the New Orleans Saints this season. In fact, we've seen them a lot. This team is not good at tackling. They're actually quite bad at it. And you saw that plenty on Sunday. Missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle. That also helped extend the drives. The Raiders were 10 of 18 on third down. So while you got that goal line stand on the first drive, you saw the tone set by Las Vegas where you weren't going to be able to get them off the field on third down. So ultimately, that is your grand undoing defensively in this ball game, and it totals up to the Vegas Raiders with almost 38 minutes time of possession. They dominated this game. Like make no mistake, Raiders dominated the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. They completely controlled the football game. Offensively, there were bright spots in the first half. You look at Spencer Rattler at halftime, he went out there and played one of the best halves you could have asked for. Easily the best half of football he's played in the NFL. 10 of 12, just over 130 yards, the touchdown, no interceptions. One of his incompletions was a throwaway when he was leading another great 2-minute drive that allowed the Saints to kick the field goal and cut the lead from 13-7 to 13-10 going in. And it was just like, okay, he's turning the corner. Made a lot of really impressive throws into tight windows. You saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire make his Saints debut, and that was awesome to see. And Clyde ended up with about, 30 yards from scrimmage. He ran the ball well at times, caught the ball in the backfield, everything Clyde can do, and it'd be interesting to see what that turns into for him. Hopefully you get to see him plenty more in Week 18 against the Bucs, so he can get tape out there. Maybe his next opportunity is with the Saints, potentially long-term. Maybe it's somewhere else. But it was great to see Clyde get back out there on the field after everything that he's been through with the mental health and injuries and all of that he's been so open about this year. That was the first NFL game he's played in all season long. So that was great to see. But in the second half, it kind of unraveled. And all the feel-goods on offense kind of were taken away. While Spencer Rattler was 10 of 12 in the first half, 83%, he was 10 out of 24 for 41% in the second half. He threw 2 interceptions. One of them was pretty meaningless, but the first one really changed the game. And what also played a part in that is he was back under pressure. In the first half, the Saints did a very nice job keeping him clean. In the second half, it looked more like the game against the Green Bay Packers. And he was just constantly under pressure, and it rattled him, and that's what we were worried about. The interior of that defensive front for Las Vegas, even sans Max Crosby on the edge, they'd done some really nice things in the pass rush. And the interior of the Saints offensive line was, you were missing your center and your left guard. You had Shane Lemieux and Oludu out there. and it just didn't go well. I thought Taliesin Fuanga had a really rough day out at left tackle. And you saw Rattler be put under pressure, and it unraveled. I mean, every positive you had on offense unraveled in the second half. The other thing defensively that really got exacerbated in the second half was the running game. It was bad all game, but, y'all, we looked at that and said the Saints have been bad against the run all year. The Raiders were near the bottom. I think they were like 28th or 29th in the NFL in rush offense. Amir Abdullah went for 115 in the game. 115 in the game. That's his first 100-yard rushing game of his career. It was also the first 100-yard rushing game for a Raiders running back all season long. The Saints are abysmal at stopping the run and tackling. They actually did a pretty good job on Brock Bowers. I mean, they held him right in check with what every other tight end's done against him this year, about 70 yards or so. I mean, he broke a bunch of records, but he was going to break those records regardless of who he played. They did fine there. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't get off the field on third down. And then offensively, they could never establish a running game. And the pressure on the quarterback, your inability on the offensive line because of injuries throughout the season caught up to you there. And oh, by the way, you couldn't convert a third down. 1 out of 10. All in all, you lost by 15 on your home field to a 3-win team. And what that tells you is, yeah, you knew there was going to be a new head coach in New Orleans in 2025, and now you know that that head coach is not going to be Darren Rizzi. I think Darren Rizzi did some really, really good things as the interim coach of the Saints here in 2024. He definitely provided a spark that is undeniable. Tyrann Mathieu, when he met with the media on Monday, said that spark is still there. There are still positives in the locker room, even not with the playoff. Guys are still happy to be there, and that's great. You had a nice win against the Falcons in Rizzi's first game where you just found a way to win. You had some fortune in there, too, with Younghoe Koo missing, 15 field goals or whatever. But you found a way to win. That's great. Darren Rizzi pointed this out Monday when he met with the media. The soft tissue injuries, which have just been a pain in your ass for the better part of 2 years, have gone way down since he's taken over. That's great. But what you can't do, the back-to-back blowouts is tough. The back-to-back dominating losses is tough. I give you 34-0 on the road at Green Bay. You really should never lose 34-0 to anybody in the NFL. But on the road, Green Bay, all your situation, I'll allow it. Losing by 15 at home to a 3-win team, that ain't it. Just, that ain't it. And that's not going to get him this job. So we will move on from that. And we will have plenty to talk about here when it comes to Saints and the head coaching job, because Mickey Loomis, there's reports out there from NFL media, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, that Mickey's going to hire a guy that he knows. And we're going to talk about that at start the 4 o'clock hour. But the one thing is for sure, what you saw Sunday is going to lead to a lot of change in New Orleans on that staff. Darren Rizzi, I hope he gets the interview, and I'm sure he will get an interview with the Saints. I hope he gets interviews elsewhere. Maybe there's a head coaching job out there for him, but I do not believe it is with the Saints after the last 2 weeks, and specifically after Sunday. You can't lose by 15 on your home field to a 3-win team. That was one game that everybody thought, okay, you can win that one. Because you're not going to go win against the Bucs. And then what's going to happen is the Saints are going to finish 2024 with their worst record since 2005. And boy, didn't that season bring on a lot of change. And this one will too. The difference is Sean Payton isn't walking through that door. The quick turnaround isn't walking through that door. You're in such a dire situation with your cap, with your roster, with everything of that nature. This is going to be a long rebuild. And the sooner they realize that, the sooner you can get back to winning. But for a guy like Darren Rizzi, again, he did a lot of great things. I, for one, love Darren Rizzi. I think he was awesome. He's got great energy. He's the type of guy that anyone should want to play for, run through a brick wall. But the 2 games going the way they went, the last 2 games going the way they went, that can't happen. And, man, your worst record since 2005 when you were 3-13. That's not all on Darren Rizzi. The majority of that's on Dennis Allen. We understand that. And actually the Saints front office. But it's part of his resume when he sits down for the interview. So we'll see. Saints lose to the Raiders. They got one more game left, but, man, it's all the same to you. I'm ready to turn the focus to the offseason and the coaching search and really find out what's next for this franchise.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.